Hi, good evening everyone, and welcome to the third session of School of AR. Today we'll be learning about how to move and resize an object in the world, and we have with us our expert trainer, Mr. Naveen Upadhyay. So, over to you, Naveen.
Thank you, Edgar. Thank you so much. Very good evening, everybody. How are you doing today? And I hope everybody's here already. I thought about how we proceed about the session, and I was thinking that if you have any questions from the previous session, we can take 5 minutes of the initial session to kind of address those questions. And if I know that you are very keen to ask questions in the session only, but you still there are questions which come after the session into your mind, you can shoot them right here. So meanwhile we can wait for everybody to join. So we will assign 5 minutes to this, and then yep, you can ask any questions if you have. Also, that thing you can think about the question. And one more thing, I would request Azkar to send you a link, and I want everybody's answer on that. It has four options. Let me share my screen, and I'll show you how this looks. Yep. So you go to this link, and you choose one of the options out of them, and yeah, let me know what you think, so that it's going to help me to make the session a bit more familiar to you. Maybe I'll use the right kind of words so that you can understand better. So this is the question, and these are the options, and you can just vote it on, and let me see where we are. Oh, we're pro. All right. Meanwhile, I'm gonna take some questions if you have. All right, Shekhar. Segmentation is basically you just break the word into two parts. Segment something. Like segmenting it's some from a scene. Probably when we talk about AR. So um, I'm gonna give you a quick example while I explain segmentation, and let me just open segmentation. Um, so to understand segmentation, you need to understand that when the camera sees everything in the scene, the light is it captures the light, and when segmenting an object is that it assigns a particular color when it detects some sort of shape that it understands as a human. So if my camera understands this girl as a human, it will it will assign it a color, and that color would be, I'll tell you how the color would be. The color would be like a white color or like a black color. So and similarly, all kind of segmentation can be done. Like if you know about Tesla cars, they can drive on the roads. They can detect if there's a crossroads, if there are trees. So that's how we do. If the car is driving on the road, then the entire road will be painted in one color. The sides of the road, they will be painted in the other colors. So that's how the camera understands, okay, if this is the color where I have to walk, this is the color where I have to drive my car. So that's how the car understands. This is segmentation, that I segmented my scene based on the objects I'm identifying. So if you're identifying this girl, then this is the segmentation that you're getting. If I take a shader render pass and I see that what is it actually, you will notice that this is just a color. So this entire color is segmented out of the entire scene, and that's what we call it segmentation. I hope that's clear. Yep. All right. I'm glad that we're winning on. We are starting to understand the tool, and this is a great news. and we will hope we'll continue that. Okay. Okay. For today's session, I'm gonna share my screen, and just give me a while. I hope my screen is visible. Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. Well, welcome to Spark School and the session number 3. And thanks for the voting earlier. We that helped me to know that we're learning Spark AI slowly. And by the end of the day, by the end of the entire season of these sessions, I think we'll do this poll again, and we'll have that I'm a pro section way up high. And then I'm hoping for that. So all the best to me and all the best to you guys. All right. Um, Today, our session is about how to resize a world object into the scene. And previously, we've talked about world object is not somewhere in New York or in London. It is the world around us. And we've talked about the world space and the local space. The world space is that when you place something inside the scene and which is not in the hierarchy of the device. That means if you move your device, it's not going to move with you. Okay. If you move your device and your object is here, then you're probably going to go closer to that object because that's in the world space and has its own position, and your camera has your own position. So um, that's what we're gonna talk about today. And why do we actually need to resize these objects? Like why there is a need that we want to resize? This is what the session is about today. That we want to resize them. So it's a pretty. I'm gonna move to my next slide, and so if you understand that, like the world object can be of any size. If my phone sees it differently, if I am on my roof and if I want to plant some flowers, then in the world object I want to place some flowers in the augmented reality scene, then I want to resize my size of the flower that I want on my roof. But when I'm down in my room, in my down inside my house, maybe I need a different size of that flower. I don't need the same size of the flower. For an instance, this person has a like about 1.5 meter of height, and when I try to place the object into the world space, it might be bigger for him, it might be medium size, it might be smaller for him. So I need that capability that once I've placed my object, I somehow can resize it. I somehow can make it bigger, somehow can make it smaller, so that the person probably, it is in the proportion. Else, it's gonna look way out of proportion. So that's how we do it, and that's why we do it. How we do it, we're gonna talk about it. So we know that we can place the object in the world space. Now, what are the powers? What are the capabilities do we have with our mobile phone that possibly can interact with the scene or with the device? We can screen tap, we can swipe on the screen, we can use two fingers. And so these are the capabilities, the type of screen interaction that we can do. There are four kind of interaction, nothing more. Just four interaction that you do on entire your screen all the time. You can screen tap. When you tap somewhere, then you can possibly place something. You can use that interaction to do anything. Sometimes you may want to start your filter, sometimes you may want to, like, okay, if I screen tap, then maybe show something. If I screen tap, maybe, start falling, snow starts falling. So that is an interaction. You tried to interact with this with the phone, and then that interaction triggered something. It could be screen pan. Screen pan is again the first two interaction, they are with one finger. Like a screen pan is that you put your finger on your screen and then you kind of move your finger. So that is screen panning. It's called screen pan. Then there's a screen pinch. You must be familiar with that. We keep pinching people, yourself, sometimes when you daydreaming or something. So this sign denotes we use two fingers to pinch. So you can do the pinch same on the screen. If you make it bigger, if the distance between the fingers when you place them, it gets larger, then you possibly pinching outwards. If it gets smaller, then you're pinching inwards. Then there's a screen rotate. It is very, very similar to screen pinch, by just that instead of making this gap lesser, you just keep the gap same wherever you're placing your finger, and then you keep the gap same and you try to rotate it. That's your screen rotate interaction. So now we're gonna talk about these in detail. Let's go into the project right up and try to see what we got there. Right, this is a very example project that I prepared for you, and I'm gonna show you how the filter loads. Initially, the chair is like this. The the first point. Actually, before I get into this, is there any question that I can take? All right. I have one more request to everybody that whenever you have questions, don't worry about how to make money from Instagram filters. Those questions will be answered in a very separate session, and we'll talk about that only. Once you learn, I know when we learn something new, we tend to monetize it. This is human nature, like if I learn something, I will seek like, how can I monetize this? I know something, I am better from other people because I've learned something. Then can I take an advantage of it? Of course you can. But let's keep all the questions technical for now, and we will answer your those questions as well. We have a separate session planned for that, and we'll just talk about becoming an AR developer expert. So yeah, just wanted to put it out there. All right. So when I load this filter initially, the chair is centered, right? So the plane tracking effect, it is, I'll make you familiar with this setup. We have a device, has a camera as a focal distance. These thing comes by default whenever you open a blank project. And then I added a plane tracker. That means that I'm trying to track a plane into the scene, which means that I'm trying to track a flat surface because I want to place something. So this session is about placing an object onto a flat surface inside your scene. So when you open your phone and you check that, can I place this object somewhere? So you need to find the flat surface first. Once you find the flat surface, then you can place that object. So this plane tracker is actually that kind of capability which allows you to find that plane surface and place the objects on it. And I've added a null object. I've not named it. This is this null chair. It's a good habit to always rename your objects there. And then I had this chair 3D model, which was an asset, and I just put it here like this. All right. And so by default, it is in center. I did some interaction to it so that I can kind of move it. Now, if you notice that if I tap it, I can place it anywhere inside the scene. I can place it here, I can place it there, I can place it farther than me, I can place it nearer than me, and then walk towards it. And to get familiarity with the plane tracker, whenever we will actually go step by step, I'm just gonna make you familiar with the result first, and then we'll get the result one by one. So now if I click on it, this is my simulator, and if I click on it, I can kind of move this chair, and if I try to pinch, I can scale it down and I can scale it up. And if I try to keep my finger and rotate, I can also rotate it and place it anywhere I like. So this is what we're gonna learn today, and you can do this to any kind of 3D object, 2D object for that matter as well. So yeah, let's do a quick test for expectations that we're gonna do. So I'm gonna send this to my phone. And it's very simple. You go to test device, and when you log into Spark AR, they already ask your Facebook credentials, so your Instagram is automatically connected. So when you send it, you get a notification on Instagram app, and that's where you can um, test this application that you made. All right, I think it's on my Instagram now, and I'm gonna. All right, that's how my Instagram looks at the moment, and when I open it, it asks me to continue, and I say continue, and then it shows me that chair so big. Right now, it's not stable. There is no proper light. So I'm gonna reload this filter, and you see that the chair is quite big. So hence the need of making it, resize it. And then right now I'm using my fingers to place it here and there, to resize it, to do different kind of interaction. So this is what we're gonna do. We possibly gonna find a better, yeah. So maybe this size looks good. I can also rotate it and possibly make it like a so nobody opens my door. All right, and so that's the expectation from today's session, and we're gonna proceed there. I'm going to delete everything from here, and you can also come to the home screen with me and start following from here. Um, gonna put you there. Okay. Um, Create a blank project. We're going to start with a blank project, and from there we see that there's nothing added in this project right now. We have a This is pretty blank project, and I love to start with a blank project because then it opens up so many possibilities that you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to click on this top left panel, which shows my workspace. And what you want to show in your workspace is that the patch editor. I always make it appear so that I can always drag things here, and I can right click and add something. So it's a good way to do this. Now, I know my expectations are that I want to place a world object into the plane tracker. So I'm going to go to my device and ask my device to have a plane tracker. Now, if you notice the hierarchy, there is device and this plane tracker is still in device, but don't worry, even if it is out or even if it is inside, right now you cannot make it, but sometimes you will be able to do it. Some of the, if you put it in a null object, and then you're probably able to move it inside. But it doesn't matter because the plane tracker will be in the world. So it doesn't matter if it is in the hierarchy of your camera, if it is a hierarchy of your focal distance. It is not even hierarchy of your device. It is actually outside. It is in the world space. Okay, this is your device. If you see here, this is your device, this is your focal distance, whatever appears on the screen, and this is the plane tracker. This positive sign, this landmark wasn't there earlier, but as soon as we place this plane tracker, we see that this is the center of this plane tracker. All right, so whatever you want to add to this, I'm going to add just null object, blank null object. You'll see that it will be right there in the center. All right, so I'm going to delete this for now, and this is the plane tracker. So we haven't done anything, added a plane tracker here. When you add a plane tracker, you notice a simulator. Your simulator says that you can use your mouse or your hotkeys to look around. You can kind of look around. How you look around is that if you have enabled the simulate orbit, all right, this is the simulator. This means this is your phone. And if you try to do like up and down, that means that you're kind of looking with your phone up and down, like the way you will try to find a flat surface, the way you will look at the flat surface. So this is kind of simulating that. All right, and then let's say if you have rotated it so much that you don't know where you are, then you can always go back to reset rotation, and it will always be facing the plane tracker. All right, so I went to this simulate orbit, I tried to move around, and I tried to see what is around me and what is not. And there's nothing around me right now. It's a plain white plane. And then I don't know where I am, so I want to reset my rotation. Then I'm back to my original position. This is one. Again, let's say this object has a plane. All right, there's a plane here, and I'm gonna scale it to make it bigger, like maybe 15 and 15 and 10. So you will see that this is This is in front of me right now, but I can make it even 50. So in the simulator, I can see it because this is in front of my camera. This is in front of my camera, and then this is the this is the boundary of my phone that I can get from it. Like this is how much I can see at once. But if I can move it up and down, and I can see that okay, this is there. This wall that I created is there. All right, I can just go and see like whatever I have added nothing, just a plain red, and I'm gonna reset the rotation again. Now, this is the one way to move inside your plane tracker, around your plane tracker. Another way is that you've played so many games, I'm sure, in your life, and then the very common interaction by moving into the game is that you move ahead by W A S D. W for front, A left, D right, and S for to go back. And then you can do the same thing. If you see that if I press W, my camera moves. This is right where it is. So this is simulating that you are holding your phone and you're going towards your object. Let's say my chair was there, and if I hold my phone and if I go towards my chair, then this is how I'm moving towards my chair. So this is I'm going towards it, and I'm almost inside. You see the camera is moving, and I'm gonna cross it. If I okay, I've crossed it. My camera is actually behind the object now. If you notice that this is actually behind the object now, and I can press S and I can come back and I can be again. So this is what my camera sees through it. Now, there is no way to reset it, to reset this, how much you have moved, and you would have to restart your project. Like, let's say if I leave my camera out, like, after crossing this, there's no way I can reset it. Like, resetting the rotation won't fix it. It won't fix it. Resetting nothing would fix it. So we'd have to like just try to, go back and see that okay, where was I? So if you want to reset this position, you would have to restart your project. Even refreshing it won't help. Nothing won't help. You have to restart your project. So this was just a test thing that we were doing. And right now, um, we have added nothing, just the plain tracker. Is there any question that I can get? Is there anything that we don't understand? Tell me, and then we can go ahead. All right, no questions about plain tracker. Um, okay, let's try to add a 3D object to our plane tracker. You can have some 3D objects from outside, from your own. You can create them in Blender or Cinema 4D, or you can there's a plus button here. There's a plus button you see. So I hope everybody's trying to follow the steps. So first look here, and then if I try to add something, then you also do that um, in your laptop. All right. So click on the plus AR library. So this opens up a library which is a library, of course, of a lot of different assets, musics, patches, which are pretty important for some sort of conversion. Later on, when you're familiar with this, you will be very oftenly using these patches. Then there are some textures which can be used for noise creation, and there are some blocks. Not many, but Spark has been adding quite a number of blocks. Blocks is something that we discussed in the first session, and then you can just import it and use them as a it's like a combination of some patches. And the script packages, I have not really used any of these packages, and you possibly have to use them very differently. But it has something that you can always refer, and you can these are hosted on GitHub, so you can always go and take a look. And these are color LUTs. If you have seen like a lot of filters on Instagram, it's like everybody knows Thai Fodaro, Moody Tones. Those filters, they're like these filters. So they change the color of the environment, make the green color more greener, maybe make the sky more blue, or maybe pink, whatever. It's augmented reality. You're a hero of your own story. You can make whatever you like. But for now, you're going to focus on the 3D objects. There are some very basic 3D shapes that you can get, but I'm an animal lover and I like furniture, so I'm gonna have a frog, which is a chair as well. So I'm gonna download this. This is I think everybody can see this. If you go to 3D, if you go to the AR library, you click on 3D objects and you click on animals, it would be probably in the first matrix here. And if you just click it and then just import free. Now when you import free, if you're doing for the first time, it might ask you to log in from your Sketchfab account, because these are from Sketchfab is a library of a lot of 3D models. Sometimes these 3D models are animated as well. So you can pick up, once you log in, once you're successful, you can pick up any 3D model that you want. Since I have already imported it inside the project, it is right there in the assets, Animal Crossing Froggy Chair. Earlier it was not there. And when you add a 3D model, an environment is by default added. Environment texture is basically the lighting setup. Like, are you in nature? Are you inside your office? So how the environment should look like. So how the environment should reflect light on those 3D materials, on the 3D surfaces. So if I can change this, I can also have different material. Like if I go and add a material here, and if I set this material to, let's say, physically based, there are certain type of materials. Flat doesn't care what lighting you are, what lighting you have. Standard does care about what lighting you have. Physically based is, you can actually, physically based, that means how does it look physically? Is it metallic? Is the surface is shiny? And when I'm talking about surfaces, I'm talking about the surfaces of any object, or any plane, any 3D object. So they can have different sort of properties, like they're metallic, they're shiny. If I'm making a robot, I'm probably make something, roughness as well. If I'm making some maybe some walls, I'll probably make them shiny also, like that. So you could adjust these properties to make it shiny, roughness, inclusion, strength, and then you see that there's an um, environment here. So whichever material is impacted by the light, there would be an environment here. So if I go to standard, um, standard has its own emission texture and the normal texture as well, I think. And physically based, all right, so we go to the environment and we choose a texture. So this default environment texture is here, and we can select it, or we can go to the search library, and we can, this is the environment texture that we already have. Like, what do you want to augment? Are you outside? Are you in the balcony? Or are you somewhere in the sunny area where there's trees, so to have like probably green reflections on your material? So we can try these out in probably on this frog. Do you want to try this in this frog? Okay, let's try this on these frogs. So to have this frog into my scene, all I have to do is click on it and place it where I want to place it. So I can place it inside my plane tracker. So if I drag and drop it here, it's going to be inside my plane tracker. And if you notice that this is right in the center of my plane tracker, this null object, the center of this this chair is right inside my plane tracker, and I'm probably way ahead. So I'm going to set my camera to be like this. So probably this is my initial setup. Probably my camera is here and my chair looks like this. Now, to interact with the screen, can I know in comments that you've already imported a 3D object, that you've successfully successfully logged in into Sketchfab, and you're able to import 3D objects? If you're not able to add a 3D object, what you can do is just right click here, add an object, and probably add a plane like this. That also works. So I'm gonna, yeah, you can also add a plane. There's no problem in that. Everything that we want to do with this chair, we can also do with uh, this plane. All right. See that everybody has imported the textures. Okay. Now, how do I interact? Now, my first part is completed, that I wanted to have a world object into my scene, and I have my world object into my scene. And if I now test it, okay, there's easier way to test it, I think. Some Whenever I want to test it, it's gonna ask me that no experience type is selected. So I have to select an experience type. I have to tell this Spark tool that what kind of effect I'm making. So I click on add experience, and it's gonna ask you to add an experience. So we're right now focusing on Instagram and Facebook filters. Later on, we'll also try to go for video calling experiences, or maybe advertisements, but we're going to cover video calling and sharing experiences, but I'm going to give some insight about advertisement as well. So I'm going to add the sharing experiences. It's going to ask like, do you want to share on Facebook, do you want to share on Instagram? So for both, we're going to select, we can use both. We can use the same file, and it will be, the filter will be on both the platforms. um, if you notice that there's this camera and existing media, and this is used for, like, if you see that there are certain filters that you can apply onto your images, existing media, like from the gallery, or so those are called existing media filters. But for now, these are not, this is not the one that we're looking for. Plane tracker does not support existing media anyway. So we're going to select Instagram or Facebook. You can select one, you can select both, and done. When I do it, I can now send it to my Instagram. All right. And the pretty same, it's going to go to my phone, it's going to go to my Instagram, and I can test it. So it's a good practice to test your effect on the phone, in every, let's say, whatever changes you make, because it may be different sometimes, the way it looks here and the way it's going to look on your phone, it may be different. So it's better that you test it out. All right. Now, this is my simulator, and I'm enabling the touch. So if I just use my finger, like if I just use single, this is single circle here, then I can screen tap, I can pan, so I can do those two interactions. But if I want to do the pinch or screen rotate, I need two fingers. But how do I do that with my mouse? So what you do is that you press Alt on your keyboard. You have Alt on your keyboard. As soon as you press Alt, you'll see that there's one more finger there. So that's how you do it. You press Alt and keep pressing it while you want to make some changes. And this is your screen rotation. This is your pinching. All right. This is pinching outwards. This is pinching inwards. So that's how you can um, use those interactions. But it's not affecting the scene right now. There's no interaction here, so it's not affecting. So let's add those interactions. First, I'm gonna go with the single one, which is a screen tap. For a screen tap, we're gonna use to place the object. So I'm not gonna right now use this. We will do this later on. So I'm gonna keep it in the side right now, or maybe delete it. But I'm gonna do screen pan. Screen pan, if you remember, it is by with one finger, where you kind of imitate swiping in a continuous manner, like where you want to swipe, where you want to place your object. And this particular patch has two inputs. One is reset. That if you're, let's say, if you were swiping, and then let's say you were at some coordinate where you swiped, and then you want to reset it to zero after some condition matches, or something happens, like if you have reached to the base position, or if you have reached to the right position, then reset it. So we can always pass that interaction to it. So it want to reset the position and the offset and everything. If it is enabled or not enabled, that also we can, let's say if you placed it and you just want it to be resized once user has done it, you don't want him to screen pen again, so you can disable it later on once user has done it. So you can pass this to, like, hey, a value which says that, okay, it's a boolean, and right now it's positive, and don't want to have it, don't want it to enable. So This is just a example. Probably this is a logic that's gonna make it enable or disable. So that logic can do it for you. The outputs is the gesture state. So I'm gonna make a value patch. Value patch is nothing. It's just a it takes whatever you input and whatever. So value patch is a patch which always takes the same input and always gives the same output. So value patch does nothing. Okay. Um, if I screen pan, if you see that I'm moving my, I click on the screen, and if I move my mouse, then I'm kind of panning. So that when you pan, it's gonna say that the boolean is positive. That means the gesture is right now you're panning, and as soon as you leave it, it's gonna be off. So it is only alive when you're panning the object. Then we have 2D position, the value of the 2D position. So your screen is a two coordinate system, is an x and y. You have a width and you have a height. Whatever operations that you can do is probably in the x coordinate, y coordinates. So this is going to give you that 2D position. That means it's going to give you two vector thing. So we're going to change the vector type to two vectors. And we see that if I reset this, it's always going to be that 0, 0 initially, because we're not screen panning. And when I screen pan, you see that it shows me the coordinates. My y is not moving. I'm at 739, 736 right now, but my x is moving. I'm moving my finger, my mouse in x. So you can see that change. So that is the 2D position, that where are your mouse point, your finger is pointing right now. All right. Then very interesting is 2D offset. It's pretty interesting, and mostly we're going to use the offset because what we want when we are panning is that how much have we moved, how much have we actually panned. Because I can start my panning here, I can start my panning everywhere. So this is not really so much useful for me unless I have particular conditions. But this is a difference. This is the difference from your where you started the pinch and where are you going with that pinch. So this is the offset. This is going to give you those values. Now I see that my uh, these values are quite higher, on the higher side. These values are like, if I'm moving from here, then you see that I've moved by 273, and my initial was 225. So this is just an offset. All right. Now answer me this in probably in the comments, that if I am trying to pan on this object, then what is the property of this object which is going to change? What is that one property which is going to change? If you can think about it. Okay. I think the comments take some time to reach to me, but I'm going to talk about consumer patches meanwhile. So if you click on this object, there are certain properties that we can access here. And then a consumer patch is a consumer which consumes something. All right. So if I correct, Sile, that's correct. That's correct. We're gonna add the position. That's correct, Shaker. And we're gonna let's take this animation patch out, and then we see that as soon as we click it, it's there inside the patch editor. And then that means that it is ready to consume something, that we can kind of pass something to it. So that is why we call it consumer patch. It's nothing more to it. All right. So when I make some interaction, when I move my finger from here to here, I want this chair to move with my finger. All right. So I need to change the position of this chair from its initial position. So I need the consumer patch of the position. All right. My position of this animal object, of this chair, and I bring it out. And when I bring it out, it is here. Now you'll notice that it has a it has a three vector x, y, and z, because this thing can actually move into depth, z direction, can also move into x direction, and also move into the y direction. But our finger can only control two coordinates. Either you want to control x, or you want to control y, or you want to control Z, because we can pass those values to either of them. So I'm gonna delete these for now. This is no use here, but I'm gonna unpack this. This is a 2D position. I'm gonna unpack it. So there's a unpack patch which says that you can take these two vector value and you can use them like one by one. Okay, what is my x and what is my y? So basically, I'm just unpacking it. By default, when you use the unpack patch, when you bring it on, it shows a vector 3, but our position is vector 2, and that is why it is giving us an error. So we will change this vector type to vector 2, and then error is gone. So we're unpacking it. All right, we're unpacking it, the x, and now we will pack it again. We want to convert it to a 3D position from a 2D position. And I'm saying that this value should go to my x and this value should go to my y. And if I connect it now, I can change my x of this, I can change my y of this, but I cannot change my z. That means it cannot go into the depth or from any minus z or minus plus z. Now, if I try to do something, you'll see that it is moving so much. Like I'm moving my finger maybe a slightly, but this chair is going crazy. It's moving so much. And very simple reason to that why this is happening. It is happening because there are two different coordinate systems we are talking. This chair, while while we have its position into meters, its dimension into meters, and we say like, okay, move 0.1 meter, and this coordinates are the screen coordinates, which is a very different coordinate system. Like the screen size, we say that okay, our screen size is 337 cross 774, or like we have a resolution, and that is a very high number for meters. Like if I move it like a little bit, that is like so many meters, so that is moving so much. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of do a smart move here. We're gonna divide it. We're gonna divide the so much. Like we know that movement is happening, but it's happening too much. So how much can I divide it? So I can divide it anyway. I can divide it by 10, I can divide it by 100. If I divide it by 100, is it working? Oh, is it working? It's working. If I divide it by 100, it's working. If I divide it by 10, then possibly that's not going to be a nice value. It's still moving, but it's lesser than earlier, right? It's lesser than earlier. I can move it, I can move less and do more like that. Okay, so I'm going to divide it by 1000. If you divide it by 1000, you will see that it is quite accurate. This is a quite accurate value. In fact, I'm going to suggest you to divide it by 2000. If you divide it by 2000, this moves just like my finger. If I move my finger, this is a very accurate value. I have used 1000 for a very long time. I've recently started using 2000 here, but it works. It works. Like both values works. Even if it is actually based on your convenient how much you want to move, how much. If you're lazy, that if you do less and do more, if you want to do less and move it more, then you possibly can just not divide it, or maybe divide it by 500, and then you'll see that okay, there's a change. It's a faster movement. So I'm going to divide it by 2000 for now to keep it quite accurate in the simulator as well. 2000 works pretty well. 1000 also works pretty well. Based on the devices, I think 2000 is okay. Now, I could divide it here. I could also divide it here, but I divided it before unpacking because I have to divide both the coordinates. If I had to divide this coordinate with a different value or this coordinate with a different value, then I will not divide it here. Then I will divide it this coordinate with a different number and this coordinate with a different number, and then pack it to here. But for now, that's not the case. So I'm going to control that and move to my previous state. All right. Now, now I know that I can, okay. So when I do this in the y direction, I see that it is quite the opposite. It goes, if I go up, it goes down, but in the x it is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply my y. I'm going to multiply my y. I just, so there are two ways to just right click and then you can have multiply patch, or you can just, like where do you want to multiply patch, so you can just do this multiply patch and then it will directly be connected. The only difference is here you would have to connect manually and there it will be already be connected. So if I multiply it by -1, then it should be fixed. And now it is fixed. It goes up when I go up, it goes right when I go right. Is it working for everybody? Okay. Um, Again, now understand this, that my plane tracker where we were finding the flat surface. If we were finding a flat surface, and if we want to move my object, do you want to move it into the y direction? Actually not, because my flat plane should be like, let's say y equal to 0, then that should always be y equal to 0. My chair should not be like into my almirah or maybe onto my another chair. It should be in line with the chair. That means that there's no point of moving this y coordinate because it is not useful. Like, it's good to learn, but it is not useful in a world project. It's a world effect. It is not useful. Maybe it is useful when I'm talking, I'm making a front camera effect, and then I have to move my some object to up and down, because there moving in z direction is not useful. So instead of moving it in y, I'll probably move it in z direction. That means that if I do this, this is gonna move in like away from the camera or towards the camera, that is in the z axis, right? So I'm moving in x and I'm moving in z. All right, now I can't move in y. So when I'm doing the y thing, when I'm making any changes in y, those y changes are converted into z coordinates. You understand this? So the y, whatever movement that happened, whatever pan position happened in the y direction is automatically converted into the z that. And you can see that now y coordinate is 0 and z is whatever I'm passing it to. Earlier it was like this. Earlier it was x, y, and z 0. Now we have like this, and we don't need to multiply in z direction because it moves okay. It moves correctly. All right. And that's pretty much it for the screen pan. Do we have any questions in the screen pan? Any questions, any doubts in this? Very pretty simple thing, but still, like, if you have any doubts and possibilities or anything, shoot them right here. Either I can answer them now or I can answer them at the end of the session. And if you understand everything, then you can say it's clear. All right.
Naveen, I've added some questions in the document.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, okay. Okay, I can see them now. All right, these questions will probably take at the end of the session. Thanks, Palak. All right, that's good to know. All right, so our first screen interaction is done. That was to the screen pan. Now we're gonna move to screen pinch. All right, like to probably now you're gonna have to tell me. So screen pan was doing the position. How, what would we do with the screen pinch? Try to think about it. So I have a question on 2D offset. Yep, 2D offset. Do you understand 2D offset better? All right. 2D offset is a difference between your current mouse position, your current finger position, from where you started. So, uh, so basically, if right now I'm here, this that's correct, Ankit. We'll come back to you. Value and vector 2, and this is my vector 2 again. Now try to notice these values, all right? Try to notice these values. I'm gonna refresh it. I am at the midpoint right now, and if I start from here, if I start panning from here, then you see that 339 is probably the center of my screen, and 700 something is also my y center, my x center and my y center from the screen. And if I'm moving left side, my 339 value will decrease towards 300 or 200 like that, and my 688 would be almost the same because I'm just going to move in x, and my offset is going to be the difference from 339, or maybe I started 370 or like plus 35, and it's going to increase in negative. So if I go, if you see that my value is decreasing, my the 2D position is decreasing, but my offset is increasing in negative, because it is the difference between the current position of my finger from where I started panning. All right. Now, if I do that in y, you can also see that in y as well. And then if I come back to the same position again, it's gonna come close to the zero. Yeah, you can say displacement. You can say displacement. Yep. Yeah. If I wouldn't call it as a displacement, but yeah, it's a difference probably, because if you're uh, moving into the like a corner like diagonally, then displacement wouldn't be a wrong term. So it would be a wrong term. So like just distance, like a difference from the original position, because this is a difference x minus x1 and y minus y1, kind of that like coordinate system in the coordinate system. All right. This is you clear, all right? And well, come back to the pinch now. Now we're gonna go screen. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there is one more patch, screen tap and hold. That also we can cover. No worries. We're gonna go to screen pinch, and similarly, and we're going to keep everything that we have here, because in our effect we want to move, we want to scale, we want to rotate, we want to do everything. So we're going to keep this. We're not going to delete it because we're done with it. We're going to keep it, and we're going to move on to work on a screen pinch. On a screen pinch, this reset and enable the same input that our screen patch had. Same, it can be reset. The position can be reset if you pass a pulse when to reset, and it can be enabled or disabled based on some interaction. The gesture state, it will only be happening. It will only happen when you screen pinch. It's gonna say boolean like yes, I'm pinching, and this is gonna give you a scale. Now, if you see that this position was a 2D vector, now this scale is just single vector, like a scalar number, just a number. So I'm gonna take this value, and just to show you, this value is here, and what property this would change of this guy when I pinch it, I want it to smaller, then I pinch it out, like pinch outwards, I want it to bigger. That means I'm going to change the scale with it. Now if I connect this value directly here, what's going to happen? It's going to give me an error because I'm passing a scalar number, one vector number, to three vector. That's not right. We can't allow this. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a pack patch. We don't have to unpack it because it's just a one number. So we have a pack, and we're going to say that we're going to have the scale changing in all the axes equally. All right, the gesture state is the same as we had in the screen pan. It's just gonna say that is the gesture enabled. So based on that, if you want to do something, let's say, let's take an example. We have a focal distance, and I'm gonna add a canvas, and I'm gonna add a 2D text. 2D text is just used to have some text, and I'm gonna say this text to that you're panning, that you are panning. All right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it 100% in x direction so you can see. and I'm going to move it a little bit down so you don't have to look all the way up. All right. So you're panning. This is pan text. I did nothing. I added a canvas. This is in my focal distance is always onto my screen. No matter what happens, this is always be gonna there. Wherever my object moves, that doesn't matter. Then I'm gonna add another 2D text. You can do that, or you can click on it and Control D to duplicate it, or right click on it or duplicate it. You can duplicate the same thing, and I'm gonna say that I am pinching. Okay, and I'm gonna change this to pinching now because we have both the text visible right now, so they're overlapping. But don't worry, we'll fix that. So now the visibility of this guy of the pen, the visibility of this, I'm gonna have a consumer patch, and I'm gonna tell it that only show when I'm actually doing this. Okay. Now if you see that disappeared because right now there's no interaction, and the pinching also when my gesture state says you're pinching. Okay, that's when it's gonna be. So if now I pan, if I try to pan, see right now I'm panning, so it's saying that you are panning because my that visibility is on. Again, if I try to pinch, it will say that okay, you're pinching. Correct? Is that understood, Sagar? All right. Now we take this scale and pack it on XYZ and then pass it to the animal state. And now to use two fingers, we press Alt. We'll have this another circle coming up. And then we try to use this like now you see that you're pinching and you're kind of um, making that bigger or making that smaller like that. So it's pretty simple. That's happening, right? But if I try to rotate, there's no interaction for rotation for now. So I hope that is clear now. So we have done our screen panning. We also done our screen pinching. Now the only thing is to that now I'm able to move my object. I'm able to resize my object. Now I have to, if I want to change the angle, change the rotation of the object, then what I can do is I can have a screen rotate patch. This screen rotate patch has again same reset and enabled with it, and the output is a gesture state and also the rotation, like how much are we rotating. So I'm going to create one more duplicate of this guy, and I'm going to call it I am rotating, and then change the values to you are rotating. All right, and then I'm gonna take this visibility and use it here, and only happens when I am right now I'm panning. Now I'm no okay. Now I'm okay. The pinching and rotation they get confused because it's a very thin line. Like when you use your fingers and the difference is same, and then you try to rotate, then it's rotation. But if you a little bit change your difference between your fingers, that goes to pinching. So in the simulator here, it's very hard to make a difference, but probably when you test on your phone, you will see a difference. So we're possibly not gonna use it for now. All right. Okay. Now we have a rotation coming out of here, and the rotation says it's just one vector value again. And this similar to this, I'm going to make something for this screen rotate as well. Now this pack, you can say Control C. When you click on it, you can say Control C, and then you click outside wherever you like. If you click it here and you say Control V, it's gonna appear there. If I click here and if I say Control V, it's gonna appear here. So what I did is I copied this pack, I pasted it, I can delete it. I can always go back to my library and have this here. It is just a technique to, like, you can have multiple objects selected, Control C them and Control V them. You can do this that way. So just to have like a faster way of doing things. And I'll take this rotation and pass it to all my axes. But actually, not in my all axes. If I do that, then my chair would be like rotating in all the way. Matlab, it will be like, kind of, let's try. Okay, so I'm gonna take out this rotation value, and we see that it already has some 90 degree of rotation. So what we're gonna do is that we wanna keep the initial rotation with it, and then we're gonna add some rotation to keep the initial rotation first. Um, I need to add something which is a vector 3, okay, similar to this. And I'm gonna say that my initial values are minus 90, 0, 0. Now, whatever changes you wanna make, you make it here and give it to me, okay? So I kept my initial rotation, and then whatever changes I'm making, I'm gonna keep it that way. Now, if I try to rotate it, it's rotating all the way. It's gonna fall if I keep it like this. That means I don't want to rotate in all the axes. So my chair, if it's like this, on the ground, it can only rotate when it is on the four legs, right? It cannot rotate when it is just one leg. So which direction would that be? I think that would be my y-axis that can rotate it. Or it's simple to try. Just remove everything. Remove everything. Okay. Right now we have this, and if I try to change this x, it is changing like in the front of you. So we don't want that. Keep it back to that. If I do it in z direction, then it's gonna rotate in along the z axis. So I don't want that as well. So do I want to change in my y? Yep, exactly that I want. Exactly that rotation I want. So that's what we're gonna do. Instead of having it all the way, I don't want it here. I don't want it here. I just want the y value, and then add it, and then pass it to this guy. So now if I try to screen rotate, it's gonna rotate as well. I hope this is clear as well. Any questions into this? Shoot it. It's always good to comment whatever you do in the patch editor. So you can select whatever you want to comment and click somewhere on the patches and say comment around. And I'm going to say that resizing, say that resizing the 3D object, right? So if I have my like a bigger project to work with, I can know that what this guy is doing, and also I can move it wherever I want to make it a little bigger, and then I can move it wherever I like that. Okay, think this is covered. And now there's one thing that we are missing. There's one thing that the plane tracker is supposed to do, is that the plane tracker should find a flat surface for you, and then when it finds the flat surface, it should be able to place this object on the flat surface. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this plane tracker, and this plane tracker to just drag it out. Just click on it and drag it out, which means that this now let's understand what this plane tracker was actually doing when it was up there. And so it is also doing nothing right now. We just dragged it out in the patch editor, and let's try to understand this. It is finding a plane, okay? After finding the plane, it is selecting the plane. It is selecting the plane out of those, and now after selecting the plane, then we can have some things like, okay, plane is found. So by default, when you are in the simulator, the plane is always found because there's a flat surface always. This flat surface is already there. So this is always going to be the case, that it is always going to be one or Boolean checked. This is never going to change. All right. These things we don't generally, confidence is that how good your plane is. Like, is it a how good the camera has been, the camera has detected the plane. Is it like, okay, 0.8, like plain but not so plain? All right. but like zero point 0.7 is like plainish, like zero point 0.5, I don't know is it plain or not, like that confidence. All right, so right now it's always going to be one, when we are testing in the simulator, but in your phone and everything, it is going to depend on the live environment, whatever your camera is looking at. But right now, because it's a simulator, and then we always have these values as one, and this is also as a always true. We don't have to necessarily use this position, scalar, rotation, because we're already kind of in parenting it inside our parent is plane tracker. So plane trackers position scales are already inherited. But just in case, if in some of the cases, in some of the use cases, based on your effect, you want to utilize this position or scale or whatever, you can always take these out and make your operations. But the most important part is setting the tracker, because we don't know where to set the tracker. Right now, it's already set because it is a simulator, but in the phone, you have to do it manually. So that's where your screen tap gonna come, and screen tap is right now. If I screen tap, there's nothing is happening. There's nothing, no interaction right now. Okay, so when I screen tap, my gesture state gives me a pulse, because it's a pulse, and other interactions were giving me a boolean that okay, the panning is happening. By screen tap, what happens is, because those interactions were longer than a second, screen tap happens and dies. Screen tap happens and dies. So it has to be a pulse. Boolean, it cannot be a boolean, because the screen pan was like okay, it stays longer whenever you're moving your finger. So it has to be a boolean, right? But the screen tap, it can always be, it can have a short life. It has a short life, so that's why it's a pulse. So whenever the screen tap happens, it's gonna set the tracker at 0 0 position. So if I do that, it is actually setting the tracker at 0 0 position, which is this position right now. So if I, whatever I do, it is happening. You see the pulse going there, the pulse goes there, but nothing happens because we already always at 0 0. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the position where we are tapping. This position value is actually the value where you are making the tap. If you're making the tap at close to 0 0, it's gonna be like 65, 63, 65. If you're making the tap here, it's gonna be about um, 700, and because y is almost close to 0. But if you do that here, it's gonna be like 700 or 1300, something like that. Yeah. If you do this in the middle of this is going to be probably 300 and 600 something. Yep. So that position we want based on the screen interaction. So I'm going to pass this position here. Now wherever I tap, it's gonna take that position, and so and kind of make sense of it, that where do we lie in the z axis. So if I do this, that means, because my plane is like this, my plane, where the plane is close to me, and if a plane is farther, then that location, that position is being um, passed to this screen position. I hope this is clear. This is the entire plane tracker mechanism. That's how the world effect. Now you can imagine, try to make a house, try to make a wood fire and place it anywhere. You can kind of limitless possibilities. There's so many 3D models here in the, like, and you also have animations as well. So let's try to find something which is animations also. So I'm gonna find, let's say we find a car from the Sketchfab, and I want an animation in it. Wow, there's so many nice cars. So I like this car. And whenever you import a 3D object, always notice the number of vertices, geometry it has. Forget about the likes and downloads. Like the first two things are very important: vertices and the geometry. And the vertices are the number of, like, everything is made up of some vertices, because they have like triangles, they have things to connect. So if this light is here, then they have like a small dots which are filled with some sort of material, some color. So those vertices cannot exceed a particular number, that is like a 50K. The number of triangles that this thing can have inside cannot exceed 50K. And the project altogether cannot exceed 150K. So this has 13K, which is okay, and we can import it. I think we've already imported it. Oh no, we forgot to import it. All right, so we go here again and we go like car, give me a car, and this from the sketch fab. Also, I want animation, and I click on the car and I import it for free. Sometimes, if it is like a larger object, this is gonna take a while to download, but it gets downloaded anyway. And once it gets downloaded, it's going to appear in the assets. So right now it is working. You can see this thing's revolving here, small, and then it's going to stop. Yep. Now we have the car into our scene. But to see this in the scene, we got to move it inside the plane tracker. And now you see that the proportion of the chair and the proportion of car is so weird. The chair can fit into the car, like over the car actually. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna make it small, the chair a little smaller. So we go here. By default, this is consuming something, so I can't change the scale of it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna multiply here. You can directly multiply where to make it smaller, and or maybe not. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete this from here. I don't want to change the scale, and I don't want to change the position, and I want to change the rotation also. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take this as a null object. Null object is just it's empty. It has nothing. There's no there's nothing inside a null object except its position, which is at 0000. So null object can be a holder for many things. So if I'm screen panning or whatever I'm doing, if I want to do that to both of my objects, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these objects inside my null object, and I'm gonna call it null main, whatever you can call it. And now you see that this is centered at the plane tracker, okay? And my car is kind of looking other way. I want to look it towards me. So it's better that since they have different sort of transformations, this chair and this car, so I put it in a like a okay, you can have your different transformations. If I need to pan or rotate or whatever, I will change the position of this guy, null main. So I'm going to replace this position to be this here, and the scale to be here, and the screen rotation to be here. So now whatever I do, it's going to be applied to both of these. Now we can do this. We don't need this 90 anymore. Because you see why I did that is because this 90 we added because our froggy chair was like that. But a null object is okay. A null object does not have a default rotation. It is at 000. So we don't need it. If you need this add patch, you gotta put it 0. All right. So if you're putting it 0, it's actually doing nothing. So we're gonna remove it anyway. So this is how we got it. And if you see that now, if I change this number, it's gonna change the scale of my both of the things, right? And to kind of, for now, I'm gonna just directly assign it to not changing by here, but I'm gonna go to the animal and I'm gonna make it to half of its size, right? Then these things are called manipulators. So when I say manipulators, your eyes should always go here. These are called manipulators, or this is a property panel where you can change values by manually, like you can position it here and there, or you can use the manipulators to do that. The manipulators is that's this rotation, this is scale, and this is position. Same thing here, same thing here. And I'm gonna move it up, and I move it on the car. Now, are you also getting a feeling of Mr. Bean? How would do it? Mr. Bean does this. Mr. Bean is he has a car and he has a lot of things into the car. And I'm gonna make it a little smaller as well, like maybe point 0.4, point 0.4, and point 0.4. This looks about right. And I'm going to give it a rotation into the z direction or to the y direction, I think. So I'm going to give it a 90-degree rotation. No, I'm going to give it minus 90-degree rotation. So now it's actually facing the, what is the driver? Which side is the driver? This side is the driver. So it's facing towards us right now. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm probably going to, so right now it is like the scale of this. No, I'm going to change the entire scale to a different number. So I'm going to multiply it by, so I can see this now. And then I want to rotate it. I want to add a rotation here just to face it towards me. So I added back the rotation, and if it wants to rotate towards me, it's going to be into the 90-degree. Right now it's facing towards me. And you also have and if you go to the car, if you remember, we specifically looked for a car which is an animation. So that means if you go and open this, you will see some sort of textures. It has like a lot of things, a lot of materials. And there's a take one. This is an animation icon. Whenever you see this icon, this is an animation icon. So how to apply animations is that you go to the 3D object, you can have this animation see, and you can see that there's no controller selected. You can click on it. This is almost creating like how you create a material or how you create something. You gotta create a envelope first, and then you're gonna put something into it. So similarly for animation, there's another envelope. It's called animation playback controller. So you can create a controller from here, or just for the sake of learning, you can click on plus and you can say playback controllers. In the last tutorial, we did an audio, we added some audio. Here we are adding animation. So we create an animation playback controller. This controller, I'm going to call it animation car. All right. And this animation should have some sort of animation clip. And this is our animation clip. This take one is our animation clip. So I'm going to click on the anim car. I'm going to click on the take one, and you'll see that now this animation controller is ready with the animation. All we're going to do is apply it on the animation. So now it appears anim car. So I'm going to say anim car. If I refresh it, the animation should be here. Oh, interesting. It opens up the doors of the car. I thought it would be moving, but it's even cooler. All right. So now this is ready. This is ready to be tested. This is ready to be, moved, screen pinch, whatever. You could do many things with it. You can place it anywhere. You can you can also move it, if you want to move the car. Let's say if you want to move the car. All right, let's move the car. Why not? So to move the car, we can have this position. So let's try to move something into some direction. All right. So how do we move? We have a loop animation. We can say loop animation, and this progress should give me a transition. This transition patch is responsible for a lot of things. This progress always be from 0 to 1. All right. And this there's a curve like how linear curve works, like all we have to go from 0 to 1. So if I put it on sinusoidal, if I put it on circular route, so there's gonna be some differences the way things move. So I'm gonna add a focal distance plane just to make you explain about it, and I'm gonna change this position from we're gonna change this as an X probably. I'm gonna hide this for now to explain you this transition. So for from minus zero point 0.5, could you go to plus zero point 0.5 and do not affect my other axes? And I'm gonna pass this here. So the minus zero point 0.5 is 0.5 is a lot. So maybe 1.5 and 0.15. Okay. So now you see that when my progress is okay, let's just we have disconnected. I've disconnected it. Now my progress is 0. That means my start position is should be my plane's position. If I say that okay, my progress is zero point 0.1, you'll see that it has changed towards, it is going from here towards this value. It started from here and it's going towards it. And this progress is goes when it is 1, it's going to be finished. It cannot be more than 1. There's nothing going to happen. It is only takes values from 0 to 1. And if it goes back, it goes back. Negative values not accepted, just 0 to 1. All right. So this loop animation, this progress, any progress inside this part here will always give you um, 0 to 1 values. So this is happening. The duration I can set it to maybe 2 seconds. Now have to notice something very different here. The transition. All right. So right now my transition is linear. So this is just a linear animation. This is linear transition. If I make it to, let's say, sinusoidal in, then you will see that in the initial part, it was a, let's take another plane and this plane's position as well to be changed by us. And I'm going to copy the same thing, Control C, Control V. Also, there's one more thing that you can do. You can, if you click on it and say Control D, then it's gonna somehow it's like erroneous part kind of creates it in the center of the screen, but it keeps the connections, right? But we don't want them because it's also connecting there. So I'm gonna have another transition patch. So possibly gonna just duplicate it, Control C, Control V, and have the same progress value and have the same thing going on here. So right now they both are like over each other because this is also, let's gonna give it a material. I'm gonna give it a material plane matte plane 0, and I'm gonna give another material to this to be like a matte plane 1, and we're gonna give it a different color than this. We'll make one to be little this color, and we'll make the other plane to be little that color. Right now, plane 1 is over plane 1, so you can't really see them. But I'm gonna make this a little side to. No, I'm not gonna make this side. I'm gonna make you feel a difference of if I put this on a linear, then see that how they start is almost very different, but how they end is pretty much same. Like after 0 0.5, when it is closer to 1, they get to the same position. So this is the difference between the curve, that we know that we are going to 0 to 1, but the way we are going is different. Here it is sinusoidal, like initially the values will be kind of in the form of sine of 0 0.1, sine of 0 0.2, like that. But then when it is closer to 1, we're not giving this. This is only when it is in the loop is closer to 0. Let's say we have cubic in and cubic out. So you'll see that there's a different mechanism going on all here. Let's move it a little bit. I'm going to move it to minus 0.05 or minus 0.05. I'm going to keep that position same. I'm going to put 0.05, 0.05. So maybe zero point 0.6 and zero point 0.6, zero point 0.6 and zero point 0.6. So this is the same loop animation, the same time. They're covering the same distance. They're just moving in y. X is the same for them. They're just going in y, but the way they are going is different. So the way you are making the animation sometimes can be like you're popping up some numbers. There's a birthday celebration. There's a cricket match, and you want to show up the 4 or 6. So you want to pop things differently, or it's just a linear animation. So you could utilize this in a different possibilities. There are a couple of possibilities here. Very useful. Bouncing in, bouncing out is like kind of that sort of animation, just a transition, but it adds a lot of value sometimes. And another thing is overshoot, over out, going from 0 to 1, but a little differently. Okay. I could also try to make you understand the main difference. Say Desmos is a kind of a graphical calculator. So when I say linear, my equation becomes like y equals to x. So if I want to focus on the values from 0 to 1, this is my 0 to 1. Okay, so I'm gonna possibly add a slider where I can see my x is 0 1. Okay. Doesn't work that way here. So I'm not an expert here, but still, just focus on 0 to 1 because that's what is allowed, and don't focus on anything else. If it's my linear graph, then the values will be like 0 to 1 going like that. And I have another equation. Let's say y equals to sine of x. Then if I my value is just a little bit different, not linearly, so probably that's something that happens. If my y is equals to e to the power x or x to the power e. Okay, so going from 0 to 1, it takes a little bit toll here, like I'm going to 0 to 1, but I'm not going linearly. Initially, I mean, when you're increasing x, I'm not moving in y. My transition is not even happening. So that is why this is possibly the in out part is happening. Like whenever there's an animation which says over like out, the out part is that when the curve actually takes place in the later part of the animation. This is just for understanding. Don't worry about it if you're not so much into mathematics, but it's just like it's a good thing to know, I think. And again, if I do that y equals to this, there's no need for 2 here. So this is my exponential increasing. And y equals to, if I say x to the power um, 1 by 2 or 1 by e, then notice the 0 to 1, very same thing. It just this is going upward. So the initially my values will be higher, but in the end it will go there. And there's another way to do that. There's another thing is called circular. So y equals to, if I just say x squared, then it's going to be circular. So the difference between the circular and the exponential is a very little, because exponential has the value e as 2.7 and circular has value 2. So the changes in the exponential one are higher than the normal one. So this is just to get you familiar with how these curves are working, because once you understand it, you can probably use it better. Uh, yeah, I think not very familiar with Chintan. Yeah, just regarding a question, when you say that is similar to what we said in CSS animation property, I think I think most of the tools, all of the tools, in fact, when you talk about exponential, always have a power of e. When you talk about circular, you always have a power of 2. So this is a very uniform concept, like in any tool you want to work with. This is not going to change. This is very basic math. So it's not going to change. There's another way, since we're talking about the animation. I'm gonna possibly take 2 more minutes on this, so and then we can move on. There's a keyframe patch in our patch editor, keyframe patch, and this keyframe patch is a very strong patch. When you open it, it kind of gives you that XYZ graph when you can like kind of draw those values, those curves, like how you want to go from 0 to 1. Do you want to go like this, or do you want to change it maybe in the middle? um, so you can do that. I don't use it so much, but in some projects where if you're not like good at mathematics, you can write your own mathematical equations and you can vary things. But if you're not good at mathematicals, but you try to change these values by hand, then it's possible, right? You can make it. Maybe I want my values to go to -2 and then go to 1, so that's possible. And if I do this, this is my progress that I'm going to give, and this is going to give me uh, so this is just going to change x because I did not change in y. If I open it, there is x, there's y, and then z. So I just made changes in x. If I'm gonna changes in y, then possibly I can do that as well. Just like this. And if I want to change in z, then possibly I can make it like this. Now if I now this is my animation. This is my kind of an animation that I created. I don't have to choose any curve. I don't have to choose any transition. I've set everything here. And if I pass it here, you'll see the difference, possibly how they're flying. Must be like, those values are, because I've put the values very abruptly. So you see that it's kind of coming and, coming into circle, into going into Z as well. Like it's, if I put it double sided, you can possibly see from the back also. So it's kind of like moving into Z as well, like not into just one axis. So this is important and a good patch, sometimes useful, not too much. Okay, I think this is done. This is what I wanted to tell you guys about the animation. Uh, okay, I'm gonna hide these guys. This was just an example and go back to our main project. And we wanted to move this car, so we wanted to move this plane. And right now our position is of possibly 0, 0, 0. And let's say we want to move this car uh, into Z direction. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete these. I'm going to delete these. I'm going to delete these as well. I want to have a transition patch. The transition should move not in X, not in Y, but in Z. Starting from 0 should go to 5 in 10 seconds. And this, what should I change with? What is that object I should give to the position to? Who can tell? That my both of my objects should move. Both of my objects should move. The position is here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the position here and then pass it here. So now this should be possibly -5. Okay, so maybe come from -5 and come to 0 so that it appears like you're coming towards me. And then, all right, the car is coming towards us. Possibly do it in 5 seconds so it don't have to wait. And then you can see that this is actually coming towards me. And if I mirror this, then it will come and it will go back as well, because the progress will go from 0 to 1 and come back from 1 to 0 again. So this is how you resize, move, and do interaction with the objects in 3D environment and a plane tracker and world space. Any questions? Very good time to shoot them right now. I have some questions already from Avinash. Says well, he says, I have to draw letters from the user one by one, but I do not understand how to detect that the user has drawn the letter. After drawing one letter, I have to show the second letter to draw. Hmm. Interesting, Avinash. That's a good question. I think you have to be specific about your problem. Like, if you have tried it, so what are the method that you're using to draw? And there are some ways to detect it, like which letter is drawn and what shape is drawn, but it is not very exact. Like, we don't have machine learning right now in Spark AR, so we can't detect what we are drawing. But I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a hint. If you explore in that direction, you'll probably get to the answer. So let's say for an example, let's say you're drawing a letter A. Then, if you're drawing a letter A, um, let me find something to draw. All right. So let's say if there is a letter A, and this is the reference letter, and if user is trying to um, draw this letter, so what I'm going to do is to detect it. I will try to make some points where I will check if the user is actually coming towards this letter or not. So if you're making that check, what we'll do is that if users drawing pen makes collision with the drawing points wherever it's passing, you kind of detect that, okay, user is kind of drawing correctly, or you can probably have some like rewards upon that. It cannot be very much exact. If you like, if you do it for every letter for 26 letters, it's going to be like a whole big project. But again, you can say that, okay, if I draw like something like this, you can probably give user to like 100 marks on that, like, because this was like, okay, 40% accurate or my 50% accurate, like that. So this is something that you can go into this direction, possibly can find some answers. You can't reset emitter for starting next letter to draw. Hmm. I can't really see the exact problem. You would have to, would have to know about the problem and the project more to get back to you on it. Shekhar says, okay, please, one more question. I'm using world particle, and but when I use some image as a texture for background, all right, I can see the world particles until in bring down the opacity of the picture. Okay. So you can tell me how to bring the world particle in front of the background. Yeah, sure. I think sure. Okay, this is a simple but very common problem that we have. Try something like this. All right. So this is what the problem you're facing is the render order problem, like how you're rendering out things. The main problem is the rendering. So let's say I have a particle system, which is a ring, and also has a 7 2 and a birth rate of 35, and my lifespan is also like 40 seconds. And when I start the emitter, it should already be like has existed for like 20 seconds. And I want to move this particle down a bit. So, and also want to scale it up to 0.05. And I want to give it a material. This material could be anything. And I can give it a STF circle. STFs we will also cover someday. STFs are Basically, just you don't have to import texture from outside, you can draw them here. And I have to use this TF complement, and also a smooth step to consider. Where are you? Where are you? All right, so now I have some particles flowing inside my scene. And, all right. So your problem is basically now you have a rectangle. You have a rectangle, and this rectangle is should be in the background, but it is actually in the front of it right now. So the one way is to kind of like try to change its layering if that works. If that doesn't work, try to change layering should work though. But if that doesn't work, there are some ways to do it. The few ways I taught you in the last one, where you can change the materials depth properties, and let's say if I want the canvas to be in the back, then this is how I will do it. So my canvas has a weird color on it, so I'm going to change that so that it's visible. Yeah. So what I did is that I put my canvas, I wanted, so in the scene, whenever you are in the scene hierarchy, whatever comes first from the bottom always renders first. Rendering is like how they appear on the screen. And then, so my emitters would come first, then my rectangle would come. And I have unchecked the depth properties, that it doesn't matter if you are in depth or not. Right now, I'm only considering my this option. This is one way to do it. I think another way is layers, which we covered in the last session. And there's one more way to do it, which is render passes. And we have enough time, so let me also introduce this way. This is a very useful technique. What you do is that, so right now, there's no pipeline like a render pipeline. Everything is rendered as you put them into the scene. So Spark has this capability where you can change the default render pipeline. So I this device's output, I made it a consumer patch. You click on the device and you'll see these properties here. So I made it in a consumer patch. So right now there's no signal. Like right now I don't see anything because I'm not giving this pipeline anything. So what I need to do is I use a scene render paths to I use a scene render pass, and I tell the scene render pass to have some scene object. Which scene object can I be? So earlier what's happening was that I take this device down here. So this object goes into scene object, like my entire object, and my background is to, and this I'll connect it here. So now this is the default render pipeline, except it doesn't have any background because we're not using any background. So this is a default render pipeline where, like, if I delete this, this is what actually was happening earlier, and I just recreated it. Like this is what is happening behind it. Like that's the default pipeline. Now I can, so why, if I have this in patch editor, I can kind of control which object I want to show, what are the operations I want to do in the middle. Like it gives me that free hand. So this is why it is important to learn this. um, so right now I'm passing the entire device, like whatever my hierarchy has, like this is the parent of it, right? So so this parent has everything, so I gave everything to this render pass, and I can see that in the preview that everything is coming here. So I don't want that. Let's say I want just one thing. I want just my emitter to be visible. So if I drag it down here, it gives me this pink patch, which is pink interaction patch, I think. And then if you give this to the scene object, then you only see the the particles, not the background. The background is not here now, which is the rectangle. It's not visible. And this black color is coming because the default color of the background is that. So I'm gonna like make it opaque. So that's gonna go away as well. Now I'm gonna make this material to a different color so that we're able to differentiate when it appears. I'm gonna make it yellow. No, I'm gonna make it blue. Yeah. So right now we're just passing the emitter. What if I pass this canvas which has the rectangle? So if I do that, I can see the blue color. So this is the you see that I now I control what I want to show at one point of time. So what if I want this background first, and then I have another scene render pass. Okay, and that should be my that scene right now this is my pipeline. My canvas is appearing to my device, and my emitter is this. My emitter appears into this. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make it again opaque. What I'm gonna do is I give this output to my background of this guy, and then this goes to here. Now whatever, I'm gonna change the color again so it's visible. Maybe possibly change this color to a black color or something. Or yeah, very confused about the colors. Yeah. All right. So no matter what you do now, no matter what is your render order here, no matter what is your layer order here, this is always gonna work. This is never gonna disappoint you. Like, and this gives you a lot of control over a lot of things. um, I know that you might be thinking a lot of questions. What is scene render pass, and what is this object all of a sudden came into this picture? But don't worry, we'll cover them. Like, what does this mean? What is mean, like, definition wise? We can always learn it, but the functionality, you should understand that this is one of the use cases where you can use render passes for layering. So this is one way. Now if I even if I now change the back to, like, use the depth test, use it, upper than this, or in like upper than this, or yeah, if I go and go above this not gonna matter. This is always gonna uh, this is gonna get the priority. This is gonna get the render order from here. Shekhar, very very good question. Very very good question. You can take it out. It doesn't matter. The output in the device is, it's gonna, because no matter where we are taking the thing from, okay, we are kind of passing it to a 2D rectangle. So consider this is like a projection of something, projection of it onto something. So yeah, so it's not gonna matter like where it is, what it is, but the position is gonna matter. So the world space, where it is right now. All right. I'm gonna move to the next question, which is I am Stoner says, can we use 3D objects as emitter? Interesting question. Very, very good question. In fact, not as good as your username, but a good question. Um, yes, you can use 3D objects as a particle emitters texture, but um, you have to be very like tricky about it. So what you need to do is that you need to use a scene render pass. So basically, you take the texture out. You take the texture out from the, let's say my 3D object is um, again, I'm gonna, so this is now, I'm gonna go to my recent. You can always go to your recent from library, and then you can have a chair, 3D chair. Okay. So I got this chair and I'm gonna put it into my focal distance, and I'm gonna minimize it a little bit. It's too big and I can't even see it. I can't see it because it's not into my scene hierarchy right now. So you put million things here. If it is not here to my device, you're not gonna see them. So I'm gonna make it a little more 3.3.3. And now to you're gonna pass that to emitter, right? So my emitter has the material. It has a material. It has a texture that is coming. Like this is the texture that I'm giving right now. These circles, but I want to change this texture to something that my chair is looking. So I'm gonna use the scene render path here. This is an object, and this gives me the chair. And I'm gonna make this by make this opacity low. And then this I'm gonna use a shader underpass to see how this looks. And now I have this as a texture, and I can pass this texture to this guy, and you will notice that everything has become a chair. Everything has become a chair. If you, but you can of course change the emitter scale and see it better. Like and they are right now black. These are right now black because that's a very important thing, that why they are black, because this emitter is out of the device right now, and then when it is out of the device, it does not have these lights. So that is why to do that there's another method, but don't worry, I'm not going to bore everybody else with those techniques. What you can do is you can just take it inside the focal distance, and then you shall have the color back. You don't have the color back, that means our material is probably standard, or uh, the material of this probably somewhere standard. Yeah, so that is the way to make the chairs appear into the as a texture. I'm not sure why is the black, but we can probably debug it and fix. Oh, it's black because we have given it a color as a black. So we're gonna give it white color, and you see that, yeah, those chairs as a 3D texture is there. So yep, you can do the 3D thing, but you have to use the render path. There is no other way. Okay, Shaker says in the particle system, I want to change the z-axis angle using random patch, but the random generates one value, but angle comes in 3 vector value. Also, I can change this single axis value solely. I think what you want to use is a pack, right? And whatever the random patch is giving you, pass it to particular axis if you want, any one axis you want, and that way you can solve this. It's working only for first letter. After that, I have to reset the meter and draw the second letter, but I'm confused. Don't worry, think on it. If you want to connect with me, write me and I will help you. Okay. All right. So in the next session, I think we're gonna answer all the questions about how to make money, how to become an AR developer, how to do a lot of things as an AR developer. Because this is a journey starting, and once the first step is to learn the skills, and then you should be thankful to Reskill, but they've given you that platform where we can connect and we can collaborate. So this is a good sign that we're getting towards becoming an AR developer. And yeah, this is pretty much for the day. Okay, I have some questions. Does depth test make any difference in the 3D model mesh when we use render pass? Depth test. Yep. It does. It does make a lot of difference. So um, take it like it depends how your mesh is painted, how your mesh has materials on it. So when you have a material and enable the depth test, then if you take the back of, like, if there are the meshes, the vertices, and there are vertices behind them as well, and if the material is on them, and if you say the depth test is unchecked, then this is going to come in front, and this is going to be hiding or not visible at all. So very poor example for that, but it's going to make a difference, of course. So you always have to make sure the initial settings of the depth test for the 3D meshes, ideally we shouldn't change them. Ideally they should be same. Yeah. Jasmine Khan, you don't understand the depth test, the two type of the depth test. All right. Okay, I think possibly you should come back to the next lecture as well, because we're running out of time right now. And I will take you a proper example to make you understand both of these. It's very important, and it's good that you mentioned we'll take an example on this, and then so the depth test is basically that if something is in front and something in the back of it, so the depth test decides that this should be visible or not. What part of, like, this should be visible? If my hands is in front of you, so my this finger is visible right now because this is the depth that it is covering. But if I disable that, then the probably it doesn't gonna matter. Like, if I change my angle, like, then it's not gonna matter. It's always gonna be in front. So we'll take a better example and proper explanation. We can do that tomorrow. Gonna have a lot of time tomorrow. Okay. That's pretty much it, folks, for today. I hope it was a good session, and now you can make your own cars move, and be ready for some exciting lectures. And then hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Naveen, for a wonderful session.
No, thanks,
I
thanks.
hope everyone has learned something today.
Yeah,
So
I
thank you
hope.
everyone for joining. And tomorrow we have a Q&A session with our another expert trainer, Maninder Singh. He'll be resolving all your queries. So if you have any queries from today's session or previous sessions, you can join tomorrow and ask your queries. Maninder will be there to resolve all your queries. So there will be no another session tomorrow. It will just be a Q&A session. So join tomorrow and ask all your queries. And whatever you have learned from past three sessions, try and implement those, create AR effects, and submit the AR effects in the Google form. I'm sharing the link in the chat. So thank you everyone. See you tomorrow.
All right, bye guys. Good night.